The Georgia Bulldogs have their sights set on a third national championship in just a 4-year span. These are my best and worst case scenarios for Kirby Smart's program in the 2024 college football season. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon as well so you get notifications of when we go live and when we drop new video content, which is each and every single day. Also, guys, check out the podcast, which drops daily: iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. The following is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. Guys, head over to RHOBACK.com. That's RHOBACK.com, and use the promo code SECU at checkout to get 20% off your entire first purchase. Guys, RHOBACK is taking over. I went to the Masters on Monday. When I tell you the amount of RHOBACK that we saw, whether it was just some of their normal pieces or their new Azalea collection, which is out for a limited time, guys, so many people are rocking the RHOBACK merch. And if you're not, you're missing out. Again, like I mentioned, this Azalea collection they just dropped, it's out a limited time. Go score yours today. They've got polos, hoodies, quarter zips, you name it, guys. They've got it at RHOBACK.com. So again, RHOBACK.com. That's RHOBACK.com. Promo code SECU at checkout to get 20% off your entire first purchase. Again, that's RHOBACK.com. Promo code SECU at checkout for 20% off. Kirby Smart's program comes into the 2024 football season with a chip on the shoulder. After last year, all the talk was, can Georgia win a third consecutive title? And certainly the Dogs had the team. Unfortunately, they stubbed their toe in the SEC championship against Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. They were left to beat Florida State like a drum in the bowl game to cap off a 13-1 season. But it wasn't good enough for a program that's gotten to a point that truly is national championship or bust. They are back with that mentality this year. And these are my best and worst case scenarios for Georgia football in this upcoming season, guys. That being said, let's go ahead and pull up their schedule. You guys can take a look, right? All the chatter this time last year was, man, Georgia's got one of the easiest schedules in college football. Nobody's going to stand a chance against them. As good as Georgia as we know they're going to be this year, the chatter about the schedule is not going to be a thing, right? You open up with a really tricky game in a neutral site game against Clemson, that game being in Atlanta. Then you got road games to kick off SEC play at Kentucky, at Alabama to close out the month of September. You do get a bye week going in that game. And I know there's no more Nick Saban, but you know Bryant-Denny Stadium, we already know it's going to be a night game. It's going to be rocking and rolling. It's going to be maybe the most raucous environment that Georgia faces all season long. So that one will be tricky. Got the home games against Auburn, Mississippi State, then traveling to Texas. So they're alone, guys, at Bama, at Texas. You got to go to Ole Miss as well. Nobody is going to be talking about how easy this schedule is for Georgia this year. Close out, of course, with Tennessee and SEC play. That could be a tricky one, of course. Tennessee, a team we look at as a potential college football playoff contender. But let's start with the best case. What's the best case for this Georgia football program? And I know I said a couple videos ago when I was talking Alabama, I believe, that I did not believe, or I was not sure that any team in the SEC, with the expanded SEC, Texas and Oklahoma coming in, the likelihood of anyone going undefeated this year, I think it's very unlikely because I think this league is so deep. I think this league is so good. These teams are going to be beating up on each other. And I mean, again, guys, you look at the schedule at Bama, at Texas, at Ole Miss. Like those three road games, nobody would blame the Dogs for stubbing their toe one time in those games. But I tell you guys, when you look at Georgia, Carson Beck returns. I think the offense, as good as it was last year, will be even better in their second year to Mike Bobo with all the returning pieces. You add Trevor Etienne at running back, although, of course, he will not play in that first game, we would imagine, against Clemson because of the off-field stuff. The defense simply, guys, is going to reload. My best case scenario for Georgia, it is 12-0. I think if there is a team in the SEC that can go undefeated, it's the Georgia Bulldogs, right? And again, these are not my predictions, guys. These are my realistic best case and worst case. I'm not locking in predictions here. I'm giving you best case, worst case. There are question marks for every team. Let's say the majority of the question marks work out in the positive for Georgia. If they do, guys, this is still the best roster in all of college football, led by arguably the best coach in all of college football and Kirby Smart. There's no better master motivator than a Kirby Smart. I think 12-0 is still on the table. Now, it'd be probably the most impressive regular season of the Kirby Smart era to go 12-0 with, again, road games at Bama, at Texas, at Ole Miss. But if there's anyone who can weather that storm, it's this Georgia football team. I mean, Georgia, they're elite, guys, across the board. It doesn't matter what position group you talk about, top to bottom. They're the most impressive college football team and the most impressive college football program in the sport right now. So, best case scenario, again, best case, not my prediction, but best case, if there's a team that can navigate their schedule and can go undefeated in SEC play and go undefeated in the 2024 season in the SEC, it is Kirby Smart's Georgia football team. Now, worst case scenario for Georgia. And when I think worst case, maybe for whatever reason, Carson Beck takes a step back. The impacts of the losses of Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers, as talented as they are, maybe they struggle to find a guy to emerge and step into those roles and be those big-time playmakers. Not just talented, athletic, whatever, but clutch playmakers like Bowers and McConkey were. Maybe the defensive side of the football isn't quite living up to the expectation of what we're used to with Georgia. Again, I'm very much nitpicking here because when you have the talent and the structure and everything that Kirby Smart's implemented, your floor is very, very high, right? It's near your ceiling. So my worst case scenario for Georgia, and also too, guys, I think a lot of it would be if Georgia were to hit this quote unquote worst case scenario, it would simply be the teeth of the schedule showing itself. Because again, Georgia could lose at Texas. They could lose at Bama. Heck, they could lose at Ole Miss, right? And then you look at the home games. I don't think they're going to lose against Clemson. Is that a tricky game? Sure. I don't think it's going to happen. Auburn's a weird game, although that game is in Sanford. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party. I don't know if Billy Napier is going to be the head coach at that point. Maybe Tennessee on November the 16th, but I mean, Tennessee's not had much success in Sanford either. So I feel pretty confident that Georgia is going to go undefeated in their home games and neutral site games. If a loss is going to come or losses are going to come, it's going to be those road games. Worst case scenario for Georgia, I've got 10-2. I think Georgia is as much a lock for the college football playoff as it gets. I think realistically, this roster's so good, guys. They're not going to win less than double-digit games. I really, truly believe that. And again, I think the only way you see them go with 10-2 is, if Alabama, who's still really, really talented, and under Kalen DeBoer, that program, I don't know if I want to say is ahead of schedule, but maybe is, working out as good as it possibly could in year one of Kalen DeBoer. Like the transition is seamless, if you will. Night game atmosphere at Bryant-Denny. At Texas, maybe that's a night game, right? Steve Sarkisian's program is building off of what they did in the college football playoff last year. Ole Miss, obviously, we know, guys, one of the most talented rosters in all the college football. Maybe they're ready to finally take the next step, win the big game, and beat a Georgia, if you will, even after last year getting thumped in Athens. So 10-2 worst case scenario. The schedule is a gauntlet to a degree. It is daunting for sure. I think that's the only way that Georgia stacks up a couple losses. If that schedule we just look at and say, guys, it's just a tough schedule. Like, Georgia's still a really good football team, but you go on the road enough in the SEC against high-level competition, you're probably going to get got by somebody. But I certainly don't see, guys, when you talk worst case scenarios, I think if there's anybody out there worst as the worst case scenario, I wouldn't take them seriously, because I think this Georgia football team, guys, they're so stacked, they're so deep, they're so elite, their floor is extremely high. So I think even if things go quote unquote sideways to the Dogs, they ain't missing the college football playoff. Georgia's as much a college football playoff lock as there is in not just the SEC, but all of college football. So that is my best case and worst case scenario. What are your thoughts, guys, for the Georgia Bulldogs? Do you see the floor and the ceiling where I see them? Again, worst case, 10-2. Best case, 12-0. What do you see for Georgia football in 2024? Guys, that's going to do all for me. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, guys, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon as well so you get notifications of when we go live and when we drop new video content, which is each and every single day. Also, guys, check out the podcast, which drops daily, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us all across social media and in our website, SECUnfiltered.com. Until next time, guys, I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we'll catch you on the other side.